This is the Leica X2, a camera I bought about a year ago, and in this little review I'm going to set out my photography experiences and, more importantly, why I think this is a great entry-level camera into the Leica system. So let's get started. First of all, this camera was produced in 2012, which is exactly 12 years ago. This was the time where the iPhone 4 and 5 were there, the Samsung S3, and a mobile phone producer called HTC was still on the market. Yeah, this is how old it is. This is an aps-c camera, 16 megapixels, in-body stabilized, yes, in-body stabilized, and it even got internal memory, a whopping 110 megapixels. Let's just first look at the design of this camera. This is small, and this is the predecessor to the original Leica X. This was the aps-c line from Leica. And as you can see here, look at the build quality. The minute I got this into my hand, I thought, okay, I need to have a thumb rest, but I didn't. This fits perfectly in the hand. It's not particularly heavy. And if you look here at the design, we see the shutter dial, and here on the side is the aperture dial. And this reminds me a bit, as you probably know, of the Leica M. The Leica M has a similar dial here, but it is actually for the ISO. Yeah, so in the beginning, this took a bit of getting used to. Additionally, there's a little flash. If we look at the menus, the menu interface, so the graphical interface, looks very dated. And yet, it is pretty much the same menu as, for instance, on the Leica Q. So don't be fooled by this somewhat backdated look here. The menu is a typical Leica menu. It is easy to navigate, it's easy to set up, and it makes you focus on your photography. The lens here is a 24mm f2.8. I can't believe this. I bought this for 650 euro, so it's definitely not cheap. We have a little battery in here as well, and this thing is amazing. 450 shots rated, but it seems to be going forever. It really is cool. This camera, by the way, is also carrying a video option, 1080p, but I wouldn't use this. I would never use this camera for filming. Now let's go into the shooting experience of this camera, because it's small, it's pocketable between brackets. You can't really put it into your pocket because it's a little bit too heavy for it, but you know, it doesn't really require a massive bag either. So first of all, point and shoot style. So there's no viewfinder, as you can see here. Yeah, and this is where I think the backdatedness comes out again. If you look at this little screen here, yeah, sure, you can see my face. That's not really an issue, but it's only 230,000 dots compared to the 1 million and bigger currently in the market. So it's a bit backdated. Then there is one thing I really noticed for shooting. The ergonomics are great. The fact that it's point and shoot, I can work with it. What I have noticed in this camera, and let me know in the comments below if you've actually shot with this camera does suffer from the usual Leica disease, which is overexposing on the highlights. So what I normally do is I either expose or go all the way up to 1.5, depending on the conditions here. Specifically when you're shooting with hard light, what I've noticed is you have to be very careful, specifically when you do portraits or people. The skin tones tend to blow out quite quickly, both in JPEG, and you can recover a bit of it in RAW, but you'll never be able to recover it. At least I can't. So that's one of the things, a typical Leica issue it seems, where the highlights are blown out, but you do need to take it into consideration when you're shooting. And when I was shooting with this camera, you know, you kind of keep it with it, and you also see that the RAWs and the JPEGs do really well in Lightroom in terms of editing. So I didn't find it much of a problem, but I was very aware, especially harsh summer light around 2-3 in the afternoon. Yeah, you definitely need to keep that overexposure into mind. For continuous shooting, and this is also one of the options here, it shoots at 5 frames per second. It's old, it's 12 years old. So even when you shoot here, you'll see one thing. You see, yeah, besides that the memory is full again, you'll see here the green light. So the buffering speed on this camera is really backdated. That's why I normally always shoot in single. You'll still have it occasionally, but after 5 seconds, you know, you've processed your JPEG and RAW in this camera. That also is why for continuous shooting I would not recommend it. And one of the things that I've only recently discovered, if you go into manual focus and you want to shoot that is where things become interesting. You just press OK, and now you can pretty much see here, you see my nose, you don't, and you can pretty much do it via this particular button. You can do manual focus. See a little box here similar to the Leica M camera. So I'd almost say this is a mini Leica M, but it really isn't. But it is, isn't it? No, I don't know. But this is really, it makes it so much fun. Despite the fact that the processor is a bit slow, it just makes photography fun. Yeah, and this is what I think. Do I think it's worth the price up until? Oh yeah, I do. I do. I've just mentioned the battery life here, right? The battery life on this camera is fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. If I look at all the cameras I have, and as you can see in the episodes, I've got quite a few, I would rate this battery on the same level as the Sony A7III. You don't need 5 or 6 batteries on a day. 1, maybe 2 will suffice. And I think a lot of camera manufacturers should really start looking at that. Give us durable batteries, 450 shots to 500 shots on smaller cameras like the Sony A7III, make it up to 800. And in general, what I really enjoyed is, I just mentioned it, but it's the ergonomics. So the ergonomics on this is really nice to shoot. I was looking for a cage, I was looking for a thumb rest, you know, I did the little strap thing, hanging it here, but this is perfect because the Leica symbol is here, and if you have big hands, nobody sees it's a Leica. They don't take you seriously and think it's a film camera. So you can pretty much walk over the streets without people having their camera on. Does this camera need accessories? And in my opinion, if you buy this used because you can't buy it new anymore, please buy one with this little carrying case. And you can buy these loose for between 50 and 90 euros, and they're really worth it in terms of photography experience. I normally don't like to carry big heavy bags when I'm doing street or travel or everyday photography. I just want something easy that clips on. From my point of view, look at this. Just wrap it around your shoulder or your neck and you're ready to go. Walking, doesn't weigh much, and you can just pretty much do whatever you want to. So I really like this particular accessory. Now, one other accessory obviously is viewfinder or not to viewfind. That is one of the key little points here. And this actually makes a difference if you're doing certain compositions. And it's not big, you can get it with this little carrying pouch. You just release it off the camera. Here we are. Put it into the carrying pouch. This is quite expensive, and I wouldn't say recommend this to everybody, because it depends. I'm really looking to transition into an M camera as well at some stage, and this is what I think this camera is so great about. It really is a fantastic entry-level aps-c camera from Leica. And if you're still watching at this stage, please consider subscribing. Now, the batteries, I would only have 2 in the accessories, and then you're basically done. If we look at the price and who this is for, this is kind of the most important question. This is for people like me who like point and shoot cameras, who also, you know, at the time I had my first Leica was a Leica T. You can see the review here. I sold that off because I simply didn't use it enough, but from a design point of view, that's a great collectible. I think this is a way better entry-level camera, and you've got multiple iterations here. You've got the XE, I think it is, which has a zoom lens attached to it. You have this one, the X, and then you have the Leica CL digital, which is a great camera too. But the price is still between 600 to 700 or 800 euros. When I bought it, I sold an MVP last week for about 11 to 1200 euros. So it seems that these kind of cameras are on an elevated Fuji path in terms of hype as well. Who is this for? I think beginning Leica shooters, people like me who don't mind a more slower experience and don't really need all the IA features that are currently being tooled around. And I think for photographers who do street travel and or everyday photography, these cameras are perfect. They're small, they deliver great image quality, and they're just fun to shoot with.